It's the start of the 7th century. The Sui dynasty disintegrated under a series of popular revolts, culminating in the assassination of Emperor Yang by his ministers in 618. The dynasty, which lasted only 37 years, was undermined by ambitious wars and construction projects, which overstretched its resources. A period of remarkable cultural, political, and social ascension from the Chinese history followed with Tang Dynasty between 618 and 907, starting with Emperor Gazu, followed by Emperor Taizong, crowned in 626, being considered one of the greatest rulers, a wise man and a good military strategist, a man open to advice. The Li family founded the dynasty, seizing power during the decline and collapse of the Sui Empire. The Tang Empire was one of the most durable empires from this region. In this period, the development of production led to the growth of Chinese economy. The work of the peasants, the production of goods, and the stability made the base for the Tang feudal economy. Among agriculture and other forms of production, the commerce developed too. The Grand Canal united the great rivers of China and was crossed by many vessels transporting skin, cattle, silk, paper, ceramics, and other important goods. Also, external commerce developed. Exotic products like cotton, crystals, spices from India, Indonesia, Korea, Japan, and other places entered the Chinese markets. Hundreds of caravans traveled on old and new trade roads to Manchuria, India, and even in the west through the Caspian Sea and Persia. With other kingdoms and empires, relations existed, so it seems diplomacy was very important to them. With Arab caliphates was an intense commerce through land and water. The huge focus on trade led to the development of ports and fleets. Chinese were masters in shipbuilding. Large vessels went south and west through the Indian Ocean. In the 9th century, the Chinese discovered gunpowder, a combination of sulfur and carbon. The existence of the Silk Road determined, among other factors, the growth of population through migration. Many people migrated to China from exterior, but migration existed in interior too, especially in the city of Chang'an, one of the most prosperous cities of that time. This intersection of two different worlds was a powerful link between incredible civilizations and cultures. It's called the Silk Road after the silk produced in China, a quality product, very appreciated in the Greco-Roman world. This road linked China with Central Asia, Middle East, Europe, and North Africa. It's important to mention that the development of this trade network was favored by the royal road of the Persian Empire, and by the conquests of Alexander II, a few centuries before. Aware of the fact that ruling over a large part of this network will bring more and more cash flow necessary to their state, Tang emperors were looking to make campaigns and to conquer territories, important zones in Central Asia. Inevitable, this Silk Road brought remarkable resources. Other influence and religions entered the Tang Dynasty: Islam, Christianity, or Buddhism. Under the influence of these beliefs, Chinese culture had been enriched. Due to the translations of Buddhist scripts, the Chinese learned more about medicine, geography, mathematics, and others. In this period, religious practices were at its peak. The Emperor of Taizong of Tang, who ruled between 626 and 649, was a very powerful and determined leader. Open to his people, a Confucianist who supported Buddhism in China. It's believed that he was a servant of the people, focusing on smart spending instead of putting the economic weight on the people's shoulders. He believed that an emperor is not above the people, but more likely a responsible ruler. And for stability, peace, and prosperity, the people must be happy and not stressed under a harsh rule. People are like water, and the ruler is like a boat. The boat may float easily or can be submerged by water. It seems that Taizong was a rationalist, embracing science and logic, believing that the true danger from a nation comes from the interior. Academies were founded, and this has led to attracting more students from the empire and beyond. The accent was put on art, architecture, Buddhism, or Confucianism, and many remained in the empire after their studies. Talented and professional people were put in high positions in administrations. It's the golden age of poetry. Some of the greatest Chinese poets lived in this period. Li Bai called a god of poetry, another one. Du Fu was called a saint of poetry. Tang artisans developed the art of porcelain finishing, and many figures were created. Porcelain becoming a Chinese brand, largely known even today. A period of progress and stability was created, mainly due to the good leadership of rulers and the progress of economy and trade. Speaking about local development, large sales of books and pictures and maps existed. Important military strategies interrupted the threats of nomadic tribes, especially in the north and northwest of Tang, and also this created the situation for the Tang armies to march forward, extend their borders, and create protectorates. While the Turks were settled in the former territory of the Xiongnu, the Tang government took on the military policy of dominating the central steppe. The Tang Dynasty conquered and subdued Central Asia during the 640s and 650s. During Emperor Taizong's reign alone, large campaigns were launched against not only the Guk Turks, but also separate campaigns against the Tuyu Hun, the Oasis city-states, and the others. Also, other campaigns were launched by other rulers against the Western Turks and steppe people. Victories in the Tarim Basin have maintained the Silk Road open. One of the greatest generals of this dynasty was Li Jing. He defeated the Guk Turks and consolidated the rule of Tang in Central Asia. Li Jing was the commander of the armies, having other generals and more than 100,000 under his command. In 630, Li Jing defeated the Guk Turks, who were led by Jiali Khan, with just 3,000 cavalry soldiers in a surprise attack. The Turks were defeated and their armies fled. This allowed the Tang Empire to subjugate the Guk Turks and reduce them to the status of a vassal. This defeat determined the Khan of the Guk Turks to prepare for another invasion against Tang China in the next year. Li Jing created again a surprise attack, capturing a large part of their forces. Also, they created military bases from Korea to Central Asia. Silla, one of the three kingdoms of Korea, allied with Tang in wars against Baekje and Goguryeo, uniting the Korean peninsula under one ruler. For more than a century, Tang Dynasty held an important part of Central Asia. Their expansion in west reached its peak in the middle of the 8th century. More exactly in the year 751, after the Battle of Talas between Tang Empire and the Abbasid Caliphate, on today's territory of Kazakhstan. Before the Battle of 751, there were other encounters in the past between the Chinese and the Arabs. The military might of China had been projected beyond the harsh continental climate and the dry, desolate, difficult terrain. Even if after previous smaller incursions between these two civilizations, Tang China maintained its administrative and military power in the region. In July 751, the Tang army was subjugated to a devastating defeat. Tang Dynasty's defeat was due to the defection of Karluk mercenaries and the retreat of Fergana allies who originally supported the Chinese. The Karluk mercenaries, 2/3 of the Tang army, defected to the Abbasids during the battle. Karluk troops attacked the Tang army from close quarters, while the main Abbasid forces attacked from the front. The Tang troops were unable to hold their positions, and the commander of the Tang forces, Gao Xianzi, recognized that defeat. The Arabs, Turks, and Tibetans defeated the Chinese, and this could be interpreted as their turnover and then decline. After 4 years of this battle of Central Asia, General A Lashan organized a rebellion in the province he governed, Hopei. Chinese commanders managed to suppress the rebellion. After this, the Tang Empire wasn't the same. The control in the west was lost, and the stability they once had never came again. The dynasty entered a period of slow military, political, and economic decline. The commerce decreased, the production too. The country was robbed, and the rebellions increased more and more. The poor management after the end of the 8th century created instability and rebellions, as well as economic problems. After 907, the Tang Empire broke apart in many pieces, and the territory was ruled by other new established, smaller states. China unified 50 years later. But this is a story for another time.